Okay, I press the record button because I keep forgetting to record these and then I have to do them over. I gave you all really short notice on this, so I don't even know if anybody's going to show up live. However, I will have the recording and I will upload it to an email for you all. So let me pull up my little PowerPoint. I wasn't even going to do a PowerPoint because I only have a very few things to say, but these are really important things. So let's go back here. Um, and one of the most important things that I have to do, and this is why I have to do the PowerPoint, is my wolf trivia. And the wolf trivia for the day is that gray wolves may have many different color coats, but their undercoat these are their guard hairs that you see on the top. And their undercoat, which they drop in the summertime, is gray, but this is a multicolored wolf. This is actually a Mexican gray wolf, and they are indigenous to Southern California and Northern Mexico. They are critically endangered, and there's a species survival program for them, of which the California Wolf Center in Julian is a member, where I volunteered for many years, which is where I got my passion for wolves. At any rate, this is another important thing that I have to say, and this is one of the reasons that I decided to do a PowerPoint, and that is that nothing contained in this presentation is intended to be or should be taken as legal or tax advice. The information contained herein is generally informative in nature and does not necessarily apply to any specific situation or legal need. Attendance or viewing of this presentation does not create an attorney-client relationship nor an expectation of confidentiality regarding anything you may disclose to the presenter, which is me. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get to the point. So I've had a few issues come up lately, and I do these webinars in response to things that happen in my practice and things I hear about from my clients. And I've had a few things happen lately when where a patient complains about something and people get really nervous and they sometimes don't know what to do. So here we have sad patient who has complained about something. First thing that I would do is try to get them into the clinic. You want to do a couple of things by doing that. You want to foster that connection with them between the patient and the providers. You want to show them that you care, and you want to actually see them to see what the issue is, if there is one. I mean, we are, for the most part, most of my practices here are in aesthetics. And even if you're not in aesthetics, you want to see the patient. You want to get a feel of their affect to see what's really going on with them, because sometimes people have other things going on in their lives and they start complaining about, the service you provided. Try to get them to if there's an issue, if you really think there's an issue or they believe there's a real issue with the treatment, try to get them to your highest ranking licensee at the clinic. So that's going to be if there's an RN there and that's the only provider, that's great. Get them to see the RN. If there's an NP or PA, get them to see the NP or PA. If the patient is complaining about symptoms, they're actually having some kind of a symptomatic reaction to the treatment. They've got, numbness or tingling or nerve problems or headache or nausea or anything, offer them an appointment with the doctor. This is a really important step, and people forget to do this because when we've got medical directors who are not in the clinic all the time, we kind of forget that that's a resource for us. So this is part of the medical director's responsibility, is to see patients when there are issues with them. This, again, does a couple of things. It shows the patient that you really care and you're trying to get them in front of the highest trained individual you can. It allows the doctor to really get, a sense of what's going on, the things that I discussed earlier. And, if there are symptoms, you want to be able to deal with it right away and go to your policy and procedure manual and do the things that that are required in there to deal with adverse situations. If they won't come in, and sometimes patients might be far away, they might be 40 minutes away, they might not want to come in, try to get them in. You can't get them in, try to get them on video, try to get them on a Zoom or a FaceTime with either whatever provider is going to see them, and or the physician. If they won't do either one of those, at least try to get them to upload photos to a HIPAA protected portal. Remember, we're not texting patients because unless we're using a HIPAA compliant texting app like Tiger Connect, texting is not HIPAA compliant. And we don't, especially in an adverse event, we don't want to be, violating HIPAA. Also, every single one of these things that you do, from the phone call to the visit to whatever it is, you want to make sure you chart that. Because if this ever arises, if it escalates to a board issue or to a lawsuit, your charting is your biggest protection. That's going to show the board or the court that you've done all these things. Because if you just say that you did them and the patient says, no, I didn't, now you've got a he said, she said situation, right? So you want to always chart that. And the board, if it's not charted, it didn't happen as far as the board's concerned. And I've been up against this before with people who've ended up on probation because they didn't chart things. If it comes to a point where a patient wants a refund, my advice is to give them the refund, but get a general release signed by them. And I know it hurts to give people a refund, but and this is in my very first compliance video. I had a situation where a nurse, an NP, didn't want to dissolve a filler at her own cost because it was over 6 months since the filler was provided. And the patient went to the board and it escalated to a board complaint, and there was charting problems and all kinds of things because once you're in their radar, they're going to look through everything you have with a fine-tooth comb. That's why I do these webinars, because I want everybody to be safe and protected. And these board issues are common in these concierge practices. So, I just want you all to be protected. Now, some of you have gotten general releases from me or someone else before. I do not recommend that you use the same general release over and over and change the language yourself, because every situation with these patients is different. And before you do anything like that, I think it's a good idea to get legal counsel at any rate, just so that I or whoever you're working with can provide you with, ask you questions and provide you with legal guidance as to how to move forward with this. If you think you are at fault, or even if you don't think you're at fault, offer mitigating treatment. Laser burns are one of the highest litigated medical aesthetics treatments that there are. And, we get those stripes on the arms, on the underarms, wherever we're removing hair. You want to make sure you're offering them the laser treatment to try to get rid of that, or the lightning cream, or whatever it is that you do to try to mitigate the situation. Sometimes we know these problems are the patient's fault because they've gone into the sun. They had been in the sun before they came in, even though we tell them not to. They've used something on their skin that they shouldn't be using before or after a particular treatment, a peel or whatever. So we want to make sure that we're getting that consent form signed in advance of the treatment, where they say they haven't done those things that they are not supposed to do, that we give them the pre-care instructions and the post-care instructions. And I know that they sign this oftentimes on a tablet. I still think it's a good idea to give them a written copy of the pre and post-care instructions, because then they've got it in their hands as well, and they're more likely to read it. I know I go home and read things when I get home, when I get instructions from a doctor about how to use a particular medication or product or whatever. So people don't read what they sign on a technology device. So We want to make sure we get them to sign the consent form and give them time to read it if they want to. If I've ever been to your med spa or your clinic, you know that I read everything. Of course, I read it because I want to see, what kind of documents you're using, but also, for me, it's a professional interest, but also because I'm interested in it and I read everything before I sign it. We never want to admit fault, even if we think we're at fault. There are ways to say, wow, let me see what I can do about that without saying, oh my gosh, I made a mistake here. I did something wrong. And finally, if you receive communication from an attorney, contact your attorney immediately. Do not respond. Do not do anything. In most cases, so for medical malpractice, there's a requirement that a 90-day notice to sue letter is sent. If we get that letter, we immediately want to send that to our insurance carrier. And the insurance carrier will take it from there. They'll open a case, they'll open the claim, they'll assign an adjuster to it, and that adjuster will communicate with the patient's attorney. And if the patient, does decide to escalate to litigation, then your insurance company is going to provide you with an attorney or let you pick one that you pay and they pay for. And sometimes you pay and they reimburse you. For board issues, usually, oftentimes, you pay and the insurance company reimburses you. For medical malpractice, they usually appoint an attorney because they've got attorneys that they use regularly for this, that they have, arrangements with. What else was I going to say about the board issues? Can't remember. So there's not much here. This isn't a long webinar. This is not a lot of things. But I've talked to clients lately where these things weren't being done. So I wanted to give you all something to think about. This doesn't apply to every situation. This is general information, like I said, but this is a good place to start. And always, 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 I mean, when there's a legal issue, I always recommend you contact an attorney because, as I said, this does not apply to every situation. So general guidelines, but every situation is different. So contact an attorney because we want to always see happy patients, not sad patients, right? So this is your, holiday webinar. Let's keep these patients happy. And as with everything, there is an end, and this is the end. And remember, this little black spot on the tail of the wolf is the caudal gland. That's a scent gland that wolves have. So if you ever see a dog with that little black dot there, they might have some wolf in them. Have a lovely evening and let me know if you have any questions about any of this or anything else.